Hi everyone, it's Lori from the Lori in the Library again. Hope you're not getting sick of me yet because you've been seeing a lot of me lately, but I love talking about books and I love sharing books with you. So, I was asked to do one for Black History Month. We have a display at East and West of books that look at Black history. And the books that I pulled from are books that we have at East, but West people, if you want them, I can definitely get them to you. So these are some books that deal with Black history, and I tried to choose some books that talk about some Black history that you might not always hear about because I think it's important to broaden your view and see what else is out there. So the very first book I have goes back quite a ways. This is called Black Heroes of the Wild West. A lot of what I have to share with you today is nonfiction, and this one as well, but it's graphic nonfiction, which I think is awesome. There's so many graphic nonfiction books coming out right now. Look for a new section of that in the library. So this one is about three African Americans, three Black people in the Wild West, and their stories and what they did and how they broke barriers even back in the Wild West. Most of them started as slaves and then left and relocated in the West and were able to do different things there. So this is a great one, Black Heroes of the Wild West. The next one is a nonfiction piece called Dark Sky Rising, Reconstruction and the Dawn of Jim Crow. And this is a little bit heavier book, but if you're wondering more about the history of some of the laws that came about that had to be changed through the civil rights movement, this would be a book that would help you with that. It takes place during the Reconstruction era, so we're going far back, and it looks at after slavery was demolished, what were some of the laws that came into being? What were some of the people that were involved in that? And really what led up to the more modern day civil rights movements and everything that has gone with that. This is going to be one that's going to be a little bit heavier in terms of a little bit more academic sounding, a little bit more historical, but it's a good book if you want to gain an understanding in some of the history that went into that time. The next one, again, is a nonfiction piece. This one looks so good. Courage Has No Color, The True Story of the Triple Nickels. And I love that they're triple nickels. They were the first Black paratroopers. And it looks at how they came to be and what they had to fight against and what they were able to do. They were called the Triple Nickels because their unit was 555. So definitely a good story there. It's got some great pictures in it if you need that. And it really does look at what these men did and some of the barriers that they broke during that time. So definitely something interesting that you might not always hear about. The next one is called Mighty Justice, The Untold Story of Civil Rights Trailblazer Dovey Johnson Roundtree. And this is a person in the civil rights movement that you maybe don't hear about as often. And she really led the way. She did some stuff with bus boycotting that really broke some of the belief of separate but equal and kind of got rid of that and things like that. So she's a huge person in the civil rights movement that you may not always hear about. So if you want to hear about some other ones, some other people, this would be a good book for you. We just got this into the library at East, so it's just going to be hitting the shelves now. So that's Mighty Justice. To go along with that, this is another story that you might not know about as well. This is called This Promise of Change, One Girl's Story in the Fight for School Equality. So when we were looking at desegregating schools, this is the story of Joanne Allen, and she in 1956 was one of the first group of kids to go in and desegregate a school there. And it really talks about her fight and what she stepped up and started doing during this time as she realized really the barriers that were being put in front of her and what she wanted to change with it. Kind of cool because it's not written like your normal story. So it's got more of that novel of verse look to it, but nonfiction. So that's This Promise of Change. And then the last one I want to share with you is Betty Before X. And this is the story about the wife of Malcolm X. And her name was Betty. Oh, does it say her last name? It doesn't. Oh, Betty Shabazz. And it's her story before she married Malcolm X. And she was a large advocate before that. She didn't always feel like she belonged in her own house. And as she started growing up and she started kind of seeing and hearing these civil rights leaders talking, it really inspired her to want to do more. So it talks about some of the things that she was involved in and that the change that she led even before she became married to Malcolm X, and they together made different changes. So, those are some of the books that you might be interested in picking up and reading for Black History Month. We have them all here at East. If you're watching this at West and there's one of these books that you really want to look at and we don't have it West, we can, of course, request it over from East and bring it over so you can read it there. I hope you found something that might be interesting to you and watch for further videos.